Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Axis of Genius podcast, episode 1. It's so good to be here with all of you. My name is Blake Chalfant, and I am joined by my co-host, DH. So I'm going to pass it over to you, DH, and you can kick us off with a little invocation.
Yeah. So one of my daily practices has been doing one hip hop verse a day. So this is kind of fresh off the press of today. And I'm kind of in the spirit of what we're doing here. It goes, I know who I am and I know why I'm here. I can talk the talk and I can walk the walk. I honor the energy as I get locked in. I'm going to begin again. Resistance is my friend as we conjure the muse, attracting these high level circumstances, these alchemical romances and biochemical interactions. These are deep paths of transformation as we tour the nation. Our own mind stream is the highest level station. Tipping off the top of the stock as we redefine the food chain. We're going to innovate a new level in the game.
Sauce, man. Sauce. So good. So if you're tuning in for the first time, we're going to be dropping hip hop beats every single episode. So keep coming back. No. So today is going to be the intro episode and really laying the foundation for what's to come. So we want to give you all a taste of who we are. Some of you probably already know us, but for anyone who doesn't, we're going to do a little introduction. And as inspired by you, DH, we are going to be introducing each other. So I'm curious to see where this goes. I'm going to let you actually kick us off.
Yeah. Well, this is a fun idea because kind of the thought process was that if people saw you, Blake, the way that I saw you, it would just be like this incredible sense of just like, oh my gosh, like of course I want to listen, I want to get to know this brother, like he's really really dope and badass. So kind of drawing on those few years of just getting to experience you. The first time anyone ever mentioned who you were, they described you as an interdimensional wizard, and so that kind of set a certain threshold. And I was like, all right, who's this guy? Who's Blake? He's this interdimensional wizard, apparently. And anyway, just it's been so much fun to get to know you over the years. And so I'd say at this point, I would like, it sounds so cliche, but I would definitely utilize like the terminology of like a sort of new paradigm kind of human, and the way that you're innovating and the way that you're approaching being in the entrepreneurial game, the way you're like going all in on your coaching and your forage offering and creating an online platform for a community. And so, yeah, I feel like Blake Chalfant, if I was to try to crystallize this as like a formal introduction, you're like at this incredible intersection of being a practitioner of your craft, kind of in this like medicine way, healing arts way, coaching kind of way. But then you're also kind of innovating some styles of leadership, bringing people together so that we can do our work, quote unquote, inner work and outer work, which, yeah, I think is a pretty incredible synthesis. So.
Amazing.
That's Blake
Thank you.
Chalfant.
That's definitely much better than I would introduce myself. Really appreciate that, man.
Yeah, we
I'm
can.
glad that you didn't do a 10-minute introduction. I thought you were gonna go for like 5-10 minutes and I was gonna have to follow it. So appreciate the conciseness.
Yeah.
Um, okay. And just I'm calling you DH, but it's David Henry Rickenbach for
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah, totally.
Yeah,
DH
but
or yeah,
DH. Yeah,
or
yeah. Okay, DH. Mythopoetically, to me, you are the mystic on the mountain. And I totally coined that term for you. And you quite literally are a mystic who lives on a mountain. You live on top of a mountain. But David Henry is someone who has been studying in an intense way the healing arts and transformational work for 15 years. From what I gather, it's been something that you've always been deeply fascinated by, even in high school. You know, it's like I was smoking weed in high school and you were like learning yoga and meditation, something
and
like
and,
this.
and smoking weed,
And joking.
yoga and meditation and weed.
And but yeah, and then dove deep with plant medicine and things like this, and then kind of came full circle and ended up getting your bachelor's in somatic, or your master's in somatic psychology, and has a super thriving practice, full on weaving together like the lineages of the East with everything. I think it's probably too much to add into your introduction, all the different schools of healing and the arts that you've apprenticed under, but really embodies the seeker archetype in such in the student in such a beautiful, profound way, and one of the
Mhm.
most humble humans I know, and the most talented humans that I know, and I really appreciate that. And I think part of why I was excited to introduce you is to just to brag about you, because you don't do that so much about yourself, and it's like you're truly one of the most inspiring humans that I know in the way that you move through your life and just are quite literally probably the most dialed human that I know in terms of your kind of daily cadence, and not necessarily in the way that you do it, but how you do it. Someone who does the things, but it's the way, it's how much you've learned to really just love the process
Mhm.
and yeah. So seeing clients, hosting retreats, working with badass human beings, and really being the Rafiki in their corner.
Mhm.
Um, that's what I would say. And has a beautiful partner and all the things.
Yeah, wow. We're just blowing up the vibe. This is like just bypasses all the humility and just like, whoa.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's so good. I love having those kinds of spaces to do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a lot to take in. Uh,
Yeah.
well, amazing, man. I appreciate it so much. I'm just like blown away and just sort of like resonating in awareness, trying not to like attach to any particulars of that. So it's an amazing reflection.
You're proving my point even more. Just like resting into the view as
Totally. Yeah. Well, kind of on this like East meets West synthesis, I thought it would be really fun, given that this is sort of like the inaugural first episode, to kind of draw a little bit from sort of the Eastern idea of like setting the bodhicitta or like setting the intention kind of right at the get go. And as I was kind of feeling into this energy, kind of from the moment we were even scheming doing this kind of thing, I was like, man, the why behind this is so rich. It's so vivid, and maybe just to pepper this and kind of set it up a little bit because I want to hear from you on this, like kind of this energy, this idea of kind of how you begin something can kind of almost be like the egg. It can kind of hold sort of the blueprint, so to speak, in regards to what it becomes. And I feel like you and I are kind of in this auspicious circumstance of having like played with podcasting and had just, we kind of have these incredible conversations pretty regularly. And, we have this sort of ongoing voice memo exchange, and there are all these moments where it's like, wow, like what's coming through is pretty incredible. And, it has an energy behind it where, I know for myself, like you're one of the few people I feel like I consistently enjoy listening to, which, I don't know if that's what that says about me, but it certainly says something about you in regards to like you're just being like a kind of like a highly quotable person. I'm just gonna riff actually.
mm,
I'm gonna stay on this tangent for a second of like certain people, like when you hear them speak, they say something in a certain kind of way, and then you like want to write it down. And you're like, because it's just like, damn, that's got the mojo or something like this. And you're just been one of those people in my life when I listen to you and like when we riff. And so that's kind of my long-winded way of getting to, I feel like there's a lot in kind of setting our intention or like really unpacking the why, and like why would we do this, why a podcast, why talking together, well, what's sort of the deeper motivation behind it all. And so if that's a good enough sort of setup, I'm just going to kind of lob this the softball over to you so you can take a swing at this one in terms of like why podcast, Blake.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think there's a few different layers to that question and to the why for me that are interesting to explore. And the first one is that we're just total nerds. Like you and I are complete nerds in what we're interested in, and I guess for us that's kind of like the training and the pursuit of mastery and the healing arts, and like we could regularly send each other 10-minute voice notes every day, and it doesn't get old. And I think there's this experience I have sometimes where like, is it gonna get old? like, is it gonna, but it just doesn't. And I think it's just like feeding this insatiable thirst within each of us for exploring this and ideas and different ideas and new frames and new ways of looking at it and cracking new codes that are working for us. It's just like, this is what we're obsessed with. And I feel like in a way we all sort of have that obsession towards something. And I think it's important to have buffets within our life where we can feast, where that part of us can really be satiated. And so I think for us who love to talk and who love to go down mythopoetic rabbit holes and everything, like the podcast is just such a beautiful, beautiful place to do that. And, you know, as you were saying, we had the recognition that also some of these conversations we were having, probably other people would want to tune into them as well and probably receive some benefit from what we're saying, because I've certainly received a lot of benefit, and I know that you do as well. And so just, you know, having the decision to start sharing it, it was a pretty easy one. And um I think another layer of it as well is this idea that I've been thinking a lot about, which is like this kind of like the gravitational pull of creativity. And let me unpack what I mean when I say that, 'cause some of you probably don't know what I mean. Like when we give an outlet for something, whether that's posting on Instagram or a podcast, it almost creates this pull. So now there's somewhere for the creation, the energy to go, and now it actually starts pulling on the creation, the creative act side of it even more. And then, you know, it's like you start to realize that you're having more ideas than you were before you even started doing the thing, like posting on Instagram, for example. When I get into the flow with posting on Instagram, all of a sudden I'm generating 10x ideas. And so I think that's also an incentive for us to be here, is like, it's just, it creates this beautiful gravitational pull on everything that we're already doing. And because of the way that we're doing it, like, I want to benefit the people listening to it. I honor the attention and energy of them tuning in. I want to enjoy it and have fun with you, and also provide benefit for the people listening. And so that also creates this incentive for me to crystallize what I'm already thinking about even more, and to really learn it and not just show up on these episodes like, I don't know what I want to say and yada yada, but like, it like enforces the learning even more. And so I think it's a really beautiful incentive for something that I'm already wanting to do. And then the last layer that I'll just touch on right now, and maybe I can just kind of introduce it and then pass it to you, is kind of the crazy unique opportunity that we have living in 2025 with this digital landscape, which maybe we can touch on, but we'll probably refer to as the shimmer a lot, which is basically just a mythopoetic name for the digital landscape. But it's like, there's an immense opportunity here, I think, for what can happen. And I think that's what we're doing, is we're exploring that opportunity of being able to reach people that we maybe never would ever have crossed paths with or met. Um, and this idea that there is a unique cohort of people that will uniquely resonate with you and I. And I feel a sense of responsibility and also just desire and excitement to reach those people and to kind of create this sense of
Mm-hmm.
shared interest. So I'll leave it there for now.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much there. I think there's this phrase we were using, like the cultivation of like a mother culture, and there's other phrasings too around like the virtuous cycles, creating virtuous cycles in our life, creating virtuous cycles when we're in connection with other people. And then I kind of, on that last point you're just sharing, like this idea of a culture coding kind of comes in. And I do feel like
Mm.
it's kind of worth unpacking a little bit of like the shimmer cosmology kind of as it flows through like the Eric Godzi sort of inspiration, but then also sort of like some of the deep problem, challenge, opportunity within the digital landscape that we find ourselves in. It's like, just to put a couple ideas out there, like one of the one of the folks who's in your Forge container right now, I can't remember his name right now, but the Somatic Soul Guide, you know, he had this great line that was something to the extent of like, artificial intelligence is like the great boon for the authentics right now. And I think there's some kind of like interplay that we're like kind of like needing to crack the code on like kind of immediately right now, which is like how to like bring the humanness, like who we are as humans, like to bear, right? As like the ultra perfectionism, like the sickly sweet polish, the instantaneous sort of like, here's your PhD level essay at the drop of a hat, which seems like is already a kind of a proving ground in regards to like whose attention is becoming captured, atrophied. They're, like letting that almost like take over their agency, their sovereignty. They're doing more, say, like thinking with it. Like, there's some studies saying that like 1 in 4 people are developing romantic partnerships with AI chatbots. Like, so I think just within this idea of the shimmer, we're like kind of looking at this like mythopoetic, but also very practical frame of just like what is happening right now in the human experience. And so then like kind of on the virtuous cycle side of things, like in this why with podcasting, like I know for myself that like certain podcasts with people I really love and admire have had like an outsized impact in regards to creating time, space, intimacy, clarity, opportunities for deeper thought processes, deeper considerations. And I think for many people, that sense of, I'll just speak from my own personal experience, that sense of being able to be on the fly, like a fly on the wall of truly brilliant people is almost been like a sort of informational enlightenment. And so there's sort of like, wow, I've received so much here. But then kind of this other idea of we're at this moment where if we don't like actively create this culture, if we don't actively create our own mother culture, if we don't actively create a community around like really core values or core ideas, like it's kind of like no one's going to do that for us. And the gestalt or the zeitgeist of culture right now is probably more like a cancerous takeover. So I feel like there's like a double-edged sword there. It's like on the one hand, it's like there's this like incredible space that I think is maybe like the flagship of our idea here, which is like there's this axis of genius, right, where we have a center or a node where we really flourish out of, and that level of stepping up like the motivation, the life force, the challenge to like flourish in that is just kind of like a really dope way to live. But then on like the medicine side of things, it's like it's not like we're in like a neutral territory right now. It's like the digital landscape and the informational landscape is kind of encroaching, and so it's kind of like if we don't make our stands, then I don't know. It's like it's not going to go well. It's like I feel like this is one facet of an expression of like making our stand in the digital landscape to, in a sense, even protect our physical landscape and our mental health and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, totally, man. There's a lot there. Have you seen the movie Her?
No, it just came into the field a couple of days ago, and so I looked it up about like it's like about a guy who like falls in love with like a sci-fi like artificial robot, right?
Yeah, man, I just watched it the other night. You should watch this movie. It's 2013, ahead of its time. It's fucking scary. And it's real though. It's super real because it's already happening, but it just made me think about it. It's wild. And it's where we're at. It's where we're going. I think something also is like you and I, the communities we're in, it's like it's quite niche compared to maybe a lot of other people. And just keeping a pulse on what's really happening out there, the state of like how most like where most people are at right now. They need help with like not doom scrolling 5 minutes after they wake up in the morning. Like that's where most people are at. And so I don't know, this is maybe a tangent, but I was just thinking of that like, yo, that's where most people are at. Like they don't need help with their morning qigong practice. Like they need help getting off TikTok when they wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
No, man, but yeah, and I think what you're speaking to also is just kind of a core principle and core piece of who we are, and probably what we'll be exploring a lot on this podcast, which is like we are both very much people who are in the arena, who are like in the arena experimenting and trying to find our way. Like, you're not going to hear us on this podcast saying, fuck AI, no one should ever touch AI for the rest of your life. We're not doing that. Like, we're in the arena trying to find the way and asking the questions. And I just think that's like, for anyone listening or anything like this, like, that's a large part of our experimentation. And I think what we talk a lot about, and it's being in the arena, and then how do we thrive in the arena? How do we flourish in the arena? And really finding a good way to be in all of this, with AI, with social media, with in capitalism, with all of it. Like, very much the ethos of playing the game, like daring to play the game and learning to play the game in a really good, beautiful way. Um, and so, yeah, I think, something that I've been really feeling within, you know, I guess the arena of AI and in that new landscape is like, I could get way better at learning how to prompt AI, for example. Like, I know that I am very much behind the curve on that. But I'm, better than my grandma is at it, but like, relative to these people who are like, if you don't learn how to do this, you're going to get left behind. Like, I'm not there. I have not learned how to prompt it in that way. I feel like my thread that I'm on right now is like trying to train in all of the ways that actually are kind of, I don't know if irreplaceable is the right word, but it's like, if AI shut down right now, like, I want to still be at the top of my game.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of my thread, you know? Like, if the whole grid goes down in 2 years, I want to still be able to write a badass book. Like, training and kind of like what I'm calling, I guess, the irreplaceable crafts and skills. And because I really feel like with AI, for example, like, I feel like we're like we're like chasing it, and then we're gonna realize that we actually just came full circle, and we're back to the same exact point of just needing to learn how to do these things, of needing to learn how to just write. But really, for me, the full circle thing is actually just realizing it all comes down to your unique taste and artistic ability and creativity, and learning how to and training those things, and unfurling that acorn, so to speak. Like, 10 years down the road, everyone's gotten really good at prompting AI. Everyone's gotten the perfect scripts for their videos on AI. And then 10 years down the road, everyone's just fucking sick of it. And then we come back full circle again. It's like, oh, we actually just want the same thing that we had before AI even started. Um,
Yeah.
so anyway, that's just an idea that I've been playing a lot with.
Well, totally. It's like huge hype, huge promise, and like we're really just so in the wild west right now. And what I think of in say something like writing, or like right now I'm just like on this adventure of like learning piano, is just like this ideal. We've talked about this a whole bunch, but like the ideal or the value of like, if I'm not in the frame of this being like well, let me back up a second. The ideal and the value of doing something because it's inherently pleasurable, doing something because it's like inherently satisfying, like the process of writing or the process of playing the piano, practicing scales, like it has its own like that autotelic feeling. Like it's just like it's inherently pleasurable, it's inherently valuable, it's inherently satisfying, inherently meaningful. Like, and that's kind of stands alone, and that's just like such a different experience than like I know for myself. Like a friend just sent me some like AI music that they were like fucking around with and prompting, and it's like absurdly perfect, and it was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
mind blowing that it almost felt perfect for them. Like I know their taste in music a bit, and I was like, okay, like not only is it kind of perfect, like in just like this musical sense, but it's like it's somehow keyed into like their unique vibe, which was like really bizarre and felt very telling. And just like
Yeah.
the contrast of like going from like the sort of visionary sense of like what is it going to be like when like millions of people have access to perfectly curated music that's just like available in every single moment to be the soundtrack of their life, to um just me sitting alone in my living room in the like existential joy of being like a little boy
Learning to scale.
running
Yeah.
scales. Just,
Yeah, yeah. Well, man, it's I feel like the essence of what you're keying in on is that it's like the meat of it is in the process. Like it's in the discovery.
Hmm.
It's in like the solving for, not the answer. You know,
Hmm.
like I feel like if you asked Rick Rubin or most of these, or producers or musicians in general, it's like so much of the goodness and the like of why I'm not gonna say why they do it is like the moment when you hear the melody come through and then you translate it onto the instrument and you feel like the body of the form starting to the body of the song starting to come together and come into form, and it's like, oh my gosh. And then you realize that the song actually wants to go that way, and you're like, oh my gosh, it actually sounds good, it works. And then like that again, it's like tension and release, which is all music. The tension of like, fuck, what do I do with this song? I know it has potential, I just don't know where it wants to go. And then you have the moment of insight where it wants to go, and it's like that. And then like at the very end, then you arrive and it's like, okay, and there's the finished song. Obviously there's like a feeling of reward in the finished song, and it feels good. But it's like that the level of reward and pleasure you feel from the finished song is directly related to the journey it took to get there. All of the left and right turns. So it really is in the process. And it's just like, I think if everyone gets really into just prompting AI to make cool music, it'll be like, this isn't fun. Like
Exactly.
this kind of sucks.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it brings to mind this term de-invention, which it was this really fascinating discovery journey of someone I work with who's just a total badass. You know who he is. I won't mention his name in this context. But like we were just like at this like threshold, and it's like you have like the energy of reinvention, and like in that there's like this like, oh, you gotta strive, and like the times and the turnings and like the way things are changing, and it's like fuck, like now I got to reinvent myself to like sync up or like learn to code. And he just like dropped into this vibe where it was just like de-invention, like ugh, just like let it go. Like I just want to rest into who I actually am. I want to recover my intrinsic sense of joy. I want to reconnect to the autotelic. And it was just like this huge like moment of just like wow, like just even the idea that we're going to like reinvent who we are to like sync up with all these different new technologies or these new opportunities is just like so exhausting. And it feels like, at least where I have like my finger on the pulse, is just like there's like this deep fatigue around just like the continuous carrot on the stick. And I feel like part of like returning to the why within podcasting, like why does this have so much power? Why is this important? Why is this meaningful? Is it's like there's these key distinctions. And I feel like this is kind of why like even the name Axis of Genius is so meaningful, is it's like there's these key distinctions where if you key into it, you can literally go from like this exhausting fatigue malaise of this other thing that I need to do into like this like deepest relief of just like like I can be in a de-invention process and recover who I am, recover kind of like my natural essence or natural spirit. And it's like these funny little like mind games or like Jedi mind tricks, because it's like in the de-invention process you might end up working harder because you're more in that place of just like I love what I'm doing so much. But it's just like these are the kinds of mindset shifts that I think are part of like what we key into a lot, that I think are just a part of why articulating and being in the art of articulation is so important, because they can literally make the difference between slogging through a Wednesday and like resting back into something that's just so deeply trustworthy about like who we are as human beings and why we enjoy our time with ourselves or together.
Yeah, totally, man. The frames, like it is again, it's the why. We're talking about what's the why with the podcast, but I do feel like especially lately, so much of our conversation has been around like how can we generate an even stronger why for that encompasses everything that we're doing, that like is the root system beneath all the things that we're doing, learning piano, yada yada. And it really is mind blowing, and I don't feel like I've quite honed in on how to properly articulate that, but like how much finding your why changes what you are doing, like profoundly changes it. it really can be the difference of burning out on something that you just are like feeling like you're trudging through mud on, and then you give up and you don't do it again, versus like a sense of energy and like generative forward movement that like really gives an entirely new life to the thing that you're doing. Um, so yeah, man, I'm curious if there's anything there for you or anything comes up. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think I've been on this Dr. Dan Brown kick because his books Cloudless Mind came out recently, which is like I think for 6 or so years he did a Dharma talk. Like I don't know if it was every week, but I think it was like every other week or once a month or something like this in Boston. And it's just like whispers of a legend at this point, where it's like the Cloudless Mind series. It's just like this incredible live stream of just who he was as a human being, having like I think crystallized some incredible East meets West synthesis, just realization. And in that why piece, one of the things he talks about, having just been a really incredible meditation teacher, is this thing about like why would say someone meditate, or why would we do mindfulness, and just like the point itself not really being mindfulness. Like mindfulness doesn't lead anywhere. And so he has these great riffs on how like you set the intention towards awakening, because right at the beginning of the meditation, on some level, that's what your mind is solving for. It's like you're entering the stream of this bigger project. You're entertaining this possibility that there's this more amazing thing that is available to be realized. And like I think there's something about, like as you were just saying, like really strengthening a why, like kind of being in like the vision quest, or like the deep search for whys. Because if we're solving for an extraordinary why, and that why brings us to our thresholds of pain or a limitation in a way where it's like we don't want to succumb to them, we actually want to break through them and redefine them. Because like it's just like, I mean, it's everything,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. Totally, man. Yeah. Speaking to the meditation piece, I hope this is okay that I'm talking about, but um, so I meditated for a long time. I mean, not a long time, but like 5 years before I started meditating in the way that I am now, which is in the Maha Mudra lineage with Dustin. I think that's fine to say. Yeah. And one of the uh, one of the most profound pieces is like the intention setting. The
mm-hmm.
intention setting and meditation, which I still find some days I'm like, oh, just skip it. It's like 7 minutes. Come on, 7 minutes of setting an intention to just meditate. It's like, come on. But like every time I do it, I'm so glad that I do it. It completely changes my frame of mind around it, because for so long I would sit down and meditate, and it's just like checking the box. Okay, checking the box of meditation so I can, because I'm gonna do the thing. It's Andrew Huberman told me to meditate, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, man, but like when he sets the frame, which is like the intention to be of benefit to all, for all beings, because of through our own awakening or stabilizing those states of being, like we get to be a part of this ripple effect that is for the benefit of all beings. And there's a way to say that, but then there's also a deep felt sense of it when it truly lands. And when it truly lands, man, it's like the meditation completely transforms. And so I think for me, that's a really potent example of how the why changes things. That's quite relevant to my life now. And it touches on this piece that actually came through in a ceremony where I was praying, and I was like, my prayer, my prayer. And then I felt this deeper and kind of more ancient intelligence come in, and it was like, what about the prayer? And it felt like the circle expanded like 100 times. And it was like, oh my gosh, what about the prayer? And it was just this felt sense that there is a kind of universal prayer that is like pulsating through like Gaia intelligence or the universe, whatever you want to call it. And it's just like there's a universal prayer field that's always flowing. And then from like the prayer, that's where from the prayer arises my prayer. and it's just like this offshoot of it. And I think it's this beautiful thing, and it's made me think about how, like in the Buddhist lineages, okay, they say for the benefit of all beings, and then in like the Lakota tradition, it's like aho mitaku yasin, like for all my for all my relations. So it's like, and I'm sure there's other cultures who have examples of this, but it was like I feel like they were tapping into this universal prayer, and it came through in their own way, and then it served as like this root system for everything that they did within their culture. Everything was rooted in this because they knew the intelligence of what we're kind of speaking to, like how the why transforms everything that we do in profound ways.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, I feel like that brings back kind of full circle, like the mother culture piece, because it's like from, say, like the for all my relations or for the benefit of others, there's like this like clarity around interdependence, like, and I think within, say, the Mahamudra lineage, one of the great contributions is to see like the emptiness of self, or I like the way Dan Brown kind of works on it, more of like emptiness being kind of a bad term. It's better to say something like the way the self is constructed. And like within that, it's like, all right, if we like look really, really closely at like the way like the Western male or like the Western female or the Western schooling has constructed us, like it's pretty like it's we got some issues to work out. Like we got like we're in a mess. It's pretty bad. And
Yeah,
yet
yeah.
we're just all in this together. And so there's, I guess what the through line I'm trying to make here is, it's like if we really appreciate that like our personal awakening is somehow entangled with our collective awakening, and if we also really appreciate that like by being of service to other people, we like can contribute to something that is ultimately of service to ourselves. I don't know if that's like a clear through line. The way that I'm saying it, it's like there's not like a personal happiness that's worth fighting for, so to speak, but there is a collective happiness that's worth fighting for. I don't know, I'm kind of
Mm. Yeah,
not
yeah. And it's
track.
almost like through the pursuit of the collective happiness actually is the deeper personal happiness that in some way we're searching for all along, kind of.
100% right. It's such an important flip. Thanks for catching that, because it's like
Yeah, yeah.
the Western
It's
construction
subtle,
is.
but it's so important.
It is, and I think we're in the hyper individualistic soup of people selfishly trying to serve their own happiness, and yet these subtle shifts can be so
Yeah, yeah.
transformative.
Yeah, yeah. It's really totally know what you're speaking to, and it is really subtle and fine, but it's really a profound kind of switch. And for me, it touches on the idea that like we have this idea of what we think we want or happiness, but there is actually sort of this like objective, almost like cup within each of us that like when that's full, that is the deepest. I don't even know the word, fulfillment or connection. For me, it's actually more of like connection. Actually, does it justice more than happiness or something? But um, in like for example, this collective happiness, striving for the collective well-being, to use my language, like the prayer.
Yeah.
For me, we can think about that. Like maybe you're listening to this and like, okay, I want some of that, so I'm gonna think about the collective thing. But for me, there's actually there feels in my experience to be like a place within like kind of our primordial nature that wants to strive towards that goes beyond any notion of
Hmm.
like mental desire. Like it's like deeper than that. It's like, and it's like part of our evolutionary roots that we are striving for that. It's almost like Gaia intelligence imprinted that on us because she knew that we would need that or something like this.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of the shift, I guess, from like trying to
Yeah.
like recognizing that desire that's already there.
Hmm.
And most of us have been disconnected from that. And so I think there's this intelligence inside of like faking it till you make it. So it's okay if you want to, if it's okay if it doesn't feel really deeply rooted or embodied at this point. Like, it's okay to be on a more mental level from that. But I think it's like through that kind of being in the arena of trying, bringing that awareness that, but it's already there. Like, it's in our nature. And I think it's through the trying that maybe there's this recognition that can open.
Yeah, yeah. This is really dope because I feel like we're kind of covering in a way like some of the foundations within the why, and like that we're kind of landing in this space, at least the way I'm tracking it, like what is the true nature of happiness? Like what is the true nature of a satisfying life? And like the image that comes to my mind here that kind of bridges the personal and the collective is this image. Maybe you've heard this before. I'm sure some of the people listening have tuned into this image, but it's kind of this contrast between heaven and hell. And like the image is like all these people are sitting at the table, and there's like this beautiful buffet of like all the, the foods, the delights that are available on the earthly plane, but they have these like really really long spoons. And like the rule for whatever reason in this image is that they have to use the spoons to be able to access like the buffet or the banquet that's before them. And sort of like the ripple of this sort of story is, it's like in hell everyone is trying to feed themselves with the spoon, but because the spoon is so long you can't actually put it in your mouth. So it's just like an image of just how like tantalizing and how terrorized we are by like the the suffering and the torment of like kind of being in this world that's constantly presenting like all the glamour or distractions or the possibility of joy and fulfillment, but we can't actually experience it because of that personal striving or something like this. But then the contrast there is the image of heaven is where everyone just feeds each other. And I feel like that like so beautifully kind of articulates this felt sense of like how we move from the sort of like hyper individualistic sort of like striving sort of, even say within podcast culture, like I feel like we could even touch on and riff on influencer culture, which even like the phrase kind of brings some nausea into my stomach. We might want to give that a better treatment at another time, or maybe you want to riff on it for a moment too. But just to close the thought, like that movement from say the hyper individualism, the influencer culture, the just like the self-serving nature of people trying to pursue happiness and fucking each other over somehow in the process, to a world where kind of like we're doing right now. I feel like in some deep mythopoetic sense we've got our long spoons and we're feeding each other's joy and our happiness, and we are really clear about doing it for the benefit of something greater. And what an
Yeah,
incredible project to be a part of.
totally. I love that image. I actually have never heard that. I bet someone's made a drawing of that or something. I'm gonna look that up after the show. But yeah, and I think it's a beautiful representation of a way in like our intention here. It's like our intention in a way is like me and you standing across from each other with spoons in each other's mouths, and at the same time with spoons extended out into the world. Like,
Yeah.
come feast. There's enough here. Um,
Mm.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I can go into the influencer thing a little bit. I guess what I was thinking about when you mentioned that is like this interesting thing of, I mean, I guess just to name, first of all, that to name the bad taste in our mouth for influencers, right? Like what you already named. And so many people in the spiritual space and whatnot have horrible taste in their mouth about influencers. And so that's, I think, a part of the interesting nature of learning to play the game again, or even daring to play the game again. Like, I post on social media, for example, and that's one of the biggest places of fear and resistance that I have to contend with is like, I don't want to be like one of them. And,
Mm.
there, and it's like recovering the baby out from the bathwater, where it's that maybe it's not necessarily about Instagram, maybe it's about the way that we're using it. And so it's like daring to use these sorts of modern day controllers to play the game in a more beautiful way. Um, and so talking about like the prayer or my prayer, like, and I guess the way that I think about that is, okay, what we are doing is we're learning to live in harmony with whatever that kind of universal stream is. Okay, like we set our arrow at being of benefit to collective happiness, and then as our arrow is aimed at that, what arises for you? Because there's going to be completely unique ways that you contribute to that and I contribute to that. And in a way, that's kind of, I know the way that each of us are living our lives, and kind of the bedrock of all of our other explorations on this podcast is like that's our orientation to life. And we're each in our own unique kind of dojo in that exploration. And we're kind of we're riffing on what it's like being in that arena.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think the interesting thing for me is that when our arrow, that for certain people who have their arrow aimed at that collective happiness, what naturally arises for them might be the impulse to go on social media. And it doesn't have to be this sort of, I want to be an influencer because I want to be yada, yada, yada. It's like, I think the phrase that comes up for me is life doesn't run away from cities. Sorry, let me say it again. Nature doesn't run away from cities.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of different riff, but it's like this idea. I have this image in my mind of like there's a forest and then it stops at the city. Okay. And then you just see like, and then you just see it. I have a very specific picture that I use for this. But the forest, and then there's a city, and the skyscraper start, and it goes over. But then what you actually see is there's all these mosses that are infesting the sidewalks, and there's ivy growing on the sides of buildings. And so this idea that nature doesn't run away from cities.
Mm-hmm.
And so this idea that there's no way that like life would want you to post on social media, or life would want you to charge and be a part of capitalism. It's like, you dug. Fucking moss grows in sidewalks, bro. Like ivy's growing on the side of the Empire State Building where, you know, Bill Gates goes to give his lectures. Like nature doesn't move away and run. It like penetrates. It moves within and it grows new life within. And so I don't know exactly how that connects to what we were speaking to, but that's
Yeah.
kind of the way that's kind of the way that I see these arenas like capitalism, social media, influencers. It's like, bro, be the ivy growing on the side of the skyscraper. Show us a new way. Show us that life too can grow in these desolate wastelands where you threw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, 100%, man. That's an amazing quote that nature doesn't want to run away from cities. I feel so, yeah, viscerally connected to the meaning and the impact of that. And it actually brings to mind something that maybe you can speak a little bit more to, because I feel like you were touching on this in one of the Forge calls recently, where it was kind of like you were describing your own journey of coming back into and kind of like being in the arena with posting. And like you said this thing that really struck a chord for me. It felt really true to my experience about like there being like an initial energy around like what your process is. And I think for you, you were describing like just like the being seen piece, or just like, you know, being willing to dance in front of the camera, because there's like the initial glass ceiling that needs to be alchemized. That's just like, I'm doing this thing, and kind of like if you're judging, like who cares kind of thing. And I loved the way you not only described your process, but also kind of like just like the stages of that, in regards to like, you know, how you're going to show up a year from now is going to be different if you're staying in the arena, if you're doing this alchemy, if you're running the energy, and kind of I got this image of almost like burning through that fuel. Like you can
Yeah,
burn through
yeah.
fuels and keep going, or you can succumb to resistance and then you'll stagnate or something like this. So I'm wondering if you could
Yeah, yeah.
on that.
Totally. There's a couple different things. One of the one something that comes up for me, I heard Gazi riff on this, where he was talking about how it, like in the very beginning of when he started writing his newsletters, and if you looked back at his newsletters, you'd be like, "Damn, bro, you're fucking angry." Like you have some steam. And so it's just this idea that, you know, for so many of us, we have this kinked hose, you know, this river that's full of boulders and the water's not flowing. And so yeah, there's going to be stages as you unkink the hose where there's like, you know, if you unkink a hose or something, or there's like a pipe that's stuck, maybe there's like, you know, goo or crust or something that's stuck on the edge of the kind of the tube or something. And then that's what comes out first. And then maybe some like more polluted water. And then over time, maybe the water gets clear, and there's over time, I would imagine that there's more of like a stable stream. But I think what I'm most lit up to share right now, that I've thought a lot about, but I never shared or posted anything about this, and I love this idea. So the initial stage of posting that I spoke to where it's kind of like you just get out what you need to get out. It's like what's the first layer on the cake? Um, for me, I call it like my hoeing out phase. And so what I mean by that is like I'm like some, it doesn't have to be a chick, like it can be a guy too. But like I like the idea of like a chick. I'm like a chick who's been in a relationship for 10 years and hasn't had sex in 10 years, and then I break up with him and I'm just like sleeping around left and right. Like that's the phase that I'm in. And as the friend of someone like this, it's like, okay, like give them their space. Like let them have their heyday. Let them have their fun. They were in a relationship for 10 years where they weren't having sex. Like, let them have their fun. Like, don't tell them to stop. Okay, if it went on for like a couple years, then there would be maybe a conversation like, hey, like, okay, I know you had your fun, but like, let's go. But the essence of what I'm trying to say with that is like, there's this necessary moment of letting people be messy, of like letting people have their fun. And so I think when we're talking about self expression, it's like we are those people who have not really properly expressed ourselves in 10, 15, 20 years, who have so much that they need to say, so much that they want to say. And so I think within this realm of self expression, everyone's like, let's be authentic, learning to express yourself. I think we're kind of in the stage as humans right now where it's like we need to have space for the mess. And so just like, what do you want to say, and letting yourself be messy and just for Godsy being angry, whatever it is. And then I imagine there's like within that within that period of being a mess, it's like I don't want anyone to tell me how to do better at what I'm saying, how to express myself more. Right now, just let me say what I need to say. Okay, in a few months, then we can start talking about that. Like, okay, I wanna learn to express myself better, but it's also the pendulum swings back. It's like we can't also be in a society where everyone's just like, you know, um, in their hoeing out phase 24/7. Do you know what I mean? Like the pendulum will swing back, and then it's like, oh,
Yeah.
actually, I don't want to say anything right now.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm just gonna be quiet. So for me, like, if I look back on my journey a year from now, and I actually did this recently, I looked back, it's like I'm talking so much about self-expression, and I'm kind of alchemizing the part within me that's like, put the mic down, bro. Like, you don't have anything to say. Like, shut up. Like, the kind of the dude in the back of the room when the guy gets on stage who's like, boring. Like, get off the stage. Like that. My hoeing out phase is like actively alchemizing that part. And when you look back, you'll be able to see that. All I talk about is self expression. But
Incredible.
that
Yeah.
phase will probably end.
So mission critical. I just love what you're saying so much about like the unkinking of the hose, going through the hoe phase, and just like kind of the sense of like what got into us that has this idea of say like I don't have self-expression inside of me, like, and just to I think name it as it is. It's like for me, I can certainly track that part of myself as just scared and not liking the petri dish I'm in, not liking the auditorium I'm in, not liking the school system I'm in, or kind of fill in the blank in terms of like what inside of me was like it's not worth it to speak up right now, or I don't know if I want to play the sports, et cetera, et cetera. And I feel like there's something about coming into these new spaces. Like I actually like had this riff that just kind of came to me spontaneously when we started Forge 2.0 around like, are we just going to be like healing our childlike wounds of just like, being with a crew of people we love being with and doing our thing? Because it's kind of like for me, I can certainly track like there's a missing experience there. And I track this in a number of clients too, where it's just like the experience of being around people you genuinely love, and then that you feel like a genuine sense of like they've got your back, and like that like the quality of care that they're offering to your work isn't just like a superficial like hoorah hoorah go for it, and it's also not like critical like you'll never be good enough, like like try harder, et cetera, et cetera. It's like there's some kind of sweet balance where it's like, oh, this is a dojo I actually want to be in. There's self-expression inside of myself I actually really do want to unlock. I want to go through these layers of the cake. I want to uncover what's inside of me. And I guess I just am trying to say like that's just such a precious journey. And I think if I was to put money down on like the cosmic betting table, I'd say like everyone has that. Like everyone has their own version of that. Not to say
Yeah.
everyone needs to be extroverted and, expressed on a podcast, or not that everyone needs to do some kind of big out there project. I think there's like a,
Yeah.
external way and an internal way, but that, all of us have these places inside of us that want to flourish.
Yeah. Totally, man. And I feel like you're speaking to, why in the state of the world that we're in, having a space, some sort of community or group that can like nurture that step of saying the thing or expressing in that way is so invaluable. And the truth is that most people don't have that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it yeah, I think one of the reasons that Instagram, something like Instagram or podcast, and kind of like the developmental journey that it takes people on is it's like this kind of archetypal experience of, you have the mic, here's the microphone, what do you have to say? What do you want to say? What do you want to talk about? You have our attention. The people in the crowd are sitting there. Here's the microphone. And it's such a potent, like precious thing that most people don't had never really experienced growing up, that level of that. Maybe you're with your friends and you say something, but like I think that like the unique um container that, yeah, something like podcasting or Instagram is just so potent in that way. And again, not everyone's going to be called to that sort of path. Not everyone's going to be a podcaster or an influencer on Instagram, but I just see that for me, that's why I am so passionate about supporting people starting to post, assuming that they feel some sort of call to it, because of that kind of developmental arc that extends it builds that muscle that is a muscle that extends to all arenas of life, in my opinion. It's not just affecting your ability to show up on Instagram or something, but it's so potent.
Yeah. 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 So maybe this is a good place for us to kind of land the plane, because I feel like there's a lot to be said about these developmental arcs that we go on. There's a lot to be said about choosing the different kind of platform or medium, whether it's Instagram or, the painter's canvas, or, the musical space or the dance space. Like, kind of like there's a whole like thread that we'll probably want to follow here as we kind of unpack this whole podcast around like, what dojo are we in? How are we going about being in that dojo? The sort of interface between the why and the how. And I think we'll get a lot into the how too, because like habits, rituals, kind of the whole unlocking of our natural rhythms is like a huge point of conversation. And then of
Yeah.
course, like, bringing in the people that we love that are a part of this with us. And so yeah, just these amazing threads of continuity that will hopefully create a lot of coherence around.
Yeah.
But do you want to give us some final words or something like this?
Don't worry, I'm not going to try and convince you to start posting on Instagram. And no, anyone who's at this point listening to the episode, just thank you so much for offering your attention and energy. I hope that it was enjoyable and beneficial. And really, I think both of our intentions is creating this mother culture and really a high level of engagement and communication. So, leave a comment. Let us know like what you want to hear more about and what are topics you're interested in. What are points of tension you felt? Like we really, I think that's kind of the intention here, is really high level of aliveness and communication and in the ecosystem. But yeah, it's a joy to be here with you, man, and really enjoying this. And I'm so looking forward to more. There's so many different rabbit holes that I know we could have gone down today, and just so much more that I'm stoked to get into. So it's really been a joy to be here.
100%. Yeah, I feel like we hit some pillars of the why that are really, really right on the money. Bullseye.
Yeah, man. Until next time.
Till next time. Let's go.